Hello there. How are ya? Welcome back. Nice to see you. So, today, given that I would very much like to consider myself a bit of an expert in the field of, well, Led Zeppelin, to address one of the biggest mistakes in guitar playing I have seen throughout the years, which is so nefariously subtle, I just want the people to know. Also, so it can stop triggering me. Now, what am I actually talking about? Whole Lotta Love. You, the brave intellectual I may be referring to, could easily think, well, actually, Fred, the true beauty of guitar playing is being able to play old riffs in a new, reimagined way. And don't go out our mellow attitude, man. There's just no place for that in music. And you know what? To be fair, given a lot of the things I've talked about on this channel already, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, I can't fault you for it. But an old friend of mine once told me, in music, if you want to refine your skills, if you want to learn something, you learn it note by note first, and then add your own little flutters and fancy shit along the way. So on that logic, let's address some transcribing errors that I've noticed. And as a big disclaimer, I would like to point out that I'm in no way trying to emphasize that I am some sort of expert in transcribing, nor am I trying to insinuate that you, the viewer, may not be. I am just trying to tag along with the joke, aka a pun, in continuing to put on this facade for the sake of comedy, although it is not funny. So after all fucking this, what am I actually talking about? Whole Lotta Love. And as I've sort of hinted at it in the introduction there, let's go back closer to the fretboard and see what's really going on. Now, mind you, ladies and gentlemen, just a moment before we pop into the fretboard, let us, once again, caffeine up and engage our brains. So necessary. Lovely. To the fretboard, we go. Fuck's sake.
2,000 years later.
Ah, finally, that's off. Okay, lovely. Welcome to the fretboard. And let's turn that off for no interference. So welcome to the fretboard. As you saw in that introduction clip, I was doing different things with both my right and left hand, depending on the section of the song I was in. So, now I'm not going to get too far into the tone. I think the easiest way to kind of go over tone specifically would be just to mention that I have a plexi-like, especially because with a guitar like this, I think it's going to be fairly simple to kind of get myself in the Jimmy Page tone ballpark, so I don't want to put that onus on you for the time being. Maybe in the future. Subscribe for more. But the easiest way to go about this riff, I believe, is to firstly underline the basic pattern. And in the E minor pentatonic box, we are going to be shuffling in with the and I think that anyone who plays this riff got to that point in the first place. What I notice is often not being done are, firstly, two variation in dynamics with regards to the picking, and then a subtle inclusion of an extra note in that beginning riff once the dynamics change. So firstly, the introduction of the song, as you noticed, I was going quite slowly at it, just a normal, simple, inverted quotes, because there is a bit of fuzz on, but it's relatively clean in a way. You know, you do the... And if you pay attention to my right hand, well, what's going on is I'm picking closer to the bridge than I would the neck pickup, just to get that slight reduction in overall volume, and giving myself the option to just lightly palm mute it. So instead of going at it like I'm doing. It's not a massive difference, but it's enough to kind of get those 3-4 introduction bars going. Now, when Robert Plant kicks in, what Jimmy actually does is instead of hitting all downstrokes as he did in those few introduction kind of segments, he starts alternating with upstrokes as well. And that's kind of the first thing that I see not imitated correctly. So he goes from the intro, just to recap. The second Robert Plant kicks in, it turns into... So that's the first area of, let's say, difficulty when I see people trying to imitate the riff specifically, because I see a lot of people sustain that it's just downstrokes, a lot of people say that it's a bit of both, and frankly, what goes on is typical Page fashion. It's a bit of both. And in the beginning, just to set the tone, it's mostly downstrokes just to get that. And then once he gets into the groove of the song and John Bonham kind of kicks in, he just lets loose with the... So the second item of contention with regards to how this riff is often played, now that we've gone over the dynamics, let's say is a slightly more intermediate / advanced element of the riff itself, and it has to do with the note selection and pattern, as you can see with the... And again, I'll easily concede that obviously the picking dynamics may be a bit more of a beginner mistake because it's a little bit more difficult to pay attention to that in the early stages. This way Jimmy plays with the pentatonic boxes is a bit trickier, mostly because when Jimmy, once he gets into the second kind of more energetic phase I just mentioned, when Jimmy goes back to hit the... What's going on, really, is he's not cleanly picking as I just did the... He's doing the whole B, D, B, D, but when he hits that D note, doesn't happen all the time, but often he adds in that open D string. Now, obviously, Jimmy's picking is a bit muddy, and, you know, he's famous for being a bit sloppy with it. So sometimes, whenever you're doing it, you may catch the G as well, which, to be fair, is absolutely fine, because you're going to have the high distortion, and given that the G is the fifth of D, it's basically just a fancy power chord, so it doesn't actually sound too bad either. But the important thing, again, is getting, not, you know, don't have to do it every single time, but get that D involved. So what happens is you have the D, which is fretted on the 5th fret, ringing out, and you add the open string. And you may think, okay, Fred, that's just an easy trick. I can see why maybe I didn't hear that before. But there's more to it. That string you're fretting, you got to give it a bit of bend, a bit of vibrato. Like, you know, maybe even just like a quarter tone or something. And that's the secret of the riff. You get this just slightly bent D in ringing out with your natural open D. And as you can hear, as I move this D up and down, we get a little natural dissonance and dirt and muck into the riff. And that is the secret of how to play Whole Lotta Love in the most authentic manner I can possibly think of for the time being. And as you can truly hear, that addition of the open D string really adds some oomph to the whole riff section, especially considering that Jimmy is the only guitar player in any sort of live performance, even if the studio version is layered with some more guitar playing of his own. So that's all we have to say on the fretboard. Subscribe for more, do whatever you want, or go back to the chair for a moment for more. And now that we have scratched the proverbial itch, so to speak, of guitar playing and my need to address it, I hope you take away this newfound secret with both the left and right hand of playing Whole Lotta Love and go perfect that riff in your own time. Because no matter how simple, and deceptively simple, mind you, this riff may be, it still to this day remains one of the most recognizable, one of the instant classics, one of the most weaponizing type riffs to have ever come out. So that being said, my young friends, ladies, gentlemen, or any lovely person in between, please consider subscribing for more idiotic content such as this. And thank you for popping in to my needless, yet oh so necessary ramblings. Alright then. Bye.